Hi, this is Anthony Parent of IRSMedic, and since 2009, my firm has taken a lead role in submitting offshore volunteer disclosures, and we've been doing a lot of opt-outs, FBAR appeals, and we've encountered things. We've encountered other professionals, cases that we've taken over for, and so we've encountered some very, very good tax professionals out there, and a lot of them are friends. And unfortunately, we have detected a lot of things that aren't so great. And the problem is this. The problem is that people who aren't familiar with the U.S. tax code system or the U.S. Court system or culture really have a hard time figuring out who to go with, and especially when there's a lot of fear and ignorance being stewed about by the profession and the IRS themselves. Joining to me today is Keith Redmond, and he's going to ask me some questions of what I think would help people find the right professional for them, especially if they're someone who needs to get or is considering entering the U.S. tax system or has some business they're going to start, or for some reason is looking for someone who isn't a U.S. person looking for help from the U.S. Keith, thank you for joining me today. Now, you've encountered this a bit, huh? People kind of getting the wrong professional?
Yeah, I am. And it is a point of frustration because I've encountered people who just don't know where to look, number one. And number two, people who have been, unfortunately, gotten very bad tax consulting advice, if you
Right.
will. And so my concern is, which is the very first question I have for you, is that, what would be the appropriate criteria for securing a tax compliance professional? Meaning, what to look out for. How do you find one, for example, that's going to fit your needs as an American overseas, accidental American, whatever?
Yeah, and honestly, it seems like it's a little bit of luck is involved because it's hard for a lot of the good firms, and they'll also get really busy to sort of get their name out there. So what will happen is it's sort of a hit or miss on who you might talk to, I would say. This is the thing, the number one criteria I would say about anyone, and this is just before you get to, where they went to law school or if they're a lawyer or CPA, enrolled agent, it doesn't matter, whatever it is. The most important thing is they actually care about you, that they actually have concern for you. Now, that is where, I don't know if there's a checklist you could go to determine that, but that's what you're really looking for, I would say, in your investigation. You don't really necessarily care about what their expertise is or who they know. What you care about is how much they're actually going to pay attention to you. Because here's the thing, I did one of the first voluntary disclosures, 2009. Well, no one did one before then, so I could say, well, I'm not experienced. Well, no one was. Well, we all had to learn it. So the more important thing that I realized during that process was just being passionate and digging a little bit deeper into issues. So that's what I would say. So, I mean, I guess maybe the best way there is if you have concerns, you ask them and they're not addressed, then that's a warning sign.
Okay. And I guess along with that, it's probably good not to just get information from one U.S. tax compliance professional, but like anything, get three different estimates, if you will. So that
Right.
way you can see if the information is consistent or not.
Right. And who's telling you what? And it goes both ways. You'll have people, and this is the problem, because we'll see a tax professional do something that is beneficial for the taxpayer but is exposing them to risk, but then we'll see them do something horrific that is hard to reverse, unfortunately. So it kind of goes either way, because you could be told news that's too good to be true. It seems too good to be true, but it could be actually
Right.
true. That's the thing to look out for. Some news is actually good.
Right. And let me ask you this, just a sub question to that question. When would one need to go to a tax attorney versus a CPA? What would be the difference between the two as far as how the person should choose, whether
Yeah,
it be an attorney or
yeah. If you have a
certified public
really,
accountant?
if you have a really good, passionate CPA who's on top of things, they can really handle a lot. Where we find people are looking for attorneys is that they're just looking for a higher level, and the attorney-client privilege. There's something going on where it's a little bit more. And I would say this, culturally, usually CPAs will go a little bit more by the book, whatever the book is, and that's sort of where I'll have my disagreement. Whereas attorneys will look for more, will tend to be greater advocates. But this is the thing, it's not necessarily the license that's creating the person that cares about something. The person cares about things because that's who they are. So that's what you're looking for. But the thing that I would say would push someone into, for an attorney is that um, you're looking for a different perspective too. And that
Okay.
CPA perspective can be really, well, this says this says this says this, therefore this. That's not
Right.
necessarily the way. And so an attorney might, well, wait, let's take a look at this the other way. That's kind
Okay.
of where it would say that our focus, an attorney's focus would be on the U.S. Constitution. How does it comply? Whereas a CPA will be saying, okay, what does the IRS say generally, and what does GAAP say? Those are the things that they're concerned with. So, but we
Okay.
work hand in hand. I mean, that's the thing. For a lot of cases, we work hand in hand with CPAs and other attorneys. So, I don't know. I think sometimes the more the better. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And then the next one would be, what would be some red flags to look out for when deciding on a tax compliance professional to go to? Is there anything that stands out from your experience to just kind of like, oh, you better step back because of X, Y, or Z?
Yeah, this is the thing that I can clearly see it. Like, I can clearly detect someone like, no, 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 they're not any good. So I'm trying to think of how to answer the question for someone who doesn't have the background that they can't see it. So, let's see here. The quickest way. You know what you do, and this is what I would say. We have a lot of great content on this website or on this website on this channel, and
Hmm.
I help a lot of people train them and stuff. So if let's say that you have, we've talked about, we have a lot of people who have, oh, I have a control foreign corporation overseas, or I need someone to file a 5471 for me. I guess that's the form that you need to file. Well, we have videos on those. And my friend Ryan Socash told me, he said, because he had to do a volunteer disclosure, and he said, I hired a firm in Maryland, and they weren't really responding to me. I didn't get it. So I got so frustrated I couldn't sleep at night. I went on YouTube. He's a YouTube entrepreneur, and he searched and he found my 5471 videos. So he started watching them, and now he was in a position of knowledge. And so he started asking the questions, and he realized, wait a second, I know this better than you do now. So that's when he said, okay, there's the thing. So that's what I would say is, whatever your issue is take a look on our channel elsewhere, for the information. And there's how-to guides. So just spend a few minutes. You don't need to become the expert on it. You just need to know enough about what it is to say, oh, hey, I had a question about this. And that
Right.
is a great way to find out who's able to help you the best.
Right. And would you say that if the tax compliance professional is very, how would I say, putting pressure on you or using scaremongering tactics that you must enter immediately or this will happen, et cetera, that would be a red flag to kind of step back and say, well, okay, wait a minute, this is too much pressure. Would that be a red flag to you?
I don't know necessarily if that would mean they would be, they couldn't do the job, but it does sort of show me the lack of concern, because they're not understanding your position. They're not understanding how you're feeling, and it sounds like they're taking advantage of it a little bit. So that just goes back to the first thing I said about concern. And the other thing too is what you don't want when you have a new relationship with a client is for them to be agitated beyond belief because you've scared the heck out of them to get them to sign. Now you have to deal with them because you scared them. So I think it's
Right.
a terrible way to start a relationship. And so that's kind of the thing I would say, oh, that's not what I was looking for. And, sometimes there is bad news and you just got to, bring the client up to speed in a way that doesn't jar them and in a way they can understand. But I think throwing that out there is just that just creates a really toxic. It can create a toxic relationship, and I really would hope people don't do that. That there's plenty of work to go around. I mean, there is a shortage of good tax professionals. I mean,
Right.
there is, and so there's so much IRS, right? So
Right.
there's plenty of work going around. So we don't need to do that to people. We can let them make their informed decisions. So.
Right. And I think it's important for the individual or the individual who has a business to really get a few different estimates and to have an interaction with a few different tax compliance professionals to get a
Yeah.
feel for
Oh,
how they're going to interact with you.
yeah. Oh,
Uh,
and by the way, I actually prefer that people will talk to, say a large accounting firm, maybe a big four, or a big law firm. I actually prefer that.
Okay, that's
Because,
going to be my next
here's the thing:
question.
there's a perception, and
Yeah.
look, I get it. Well, hey, or here's a big law firm. Well, that's a name. They've been around. They must be the best, and I have the money. I want to get the best, right? I get it. And then also the big four or a large accounting firm. Well, I want the best. I have the money. Let me get the best. But they're not necessarily. Not all of them. Their hearts are in it. And sometimes they could look at clients as just sort of cash cows, unfortunately. Sometimes, and that's hard. Now that's these are the exceptions, and these are also the cases that I'm getting, the cases that didn't go well, and now I see a lot. So my perspective could be a little biased because we also encounter tremendous tax advisors out there, people I really admire. So that also
All
happens.
right.
Yeah.
Well, would you say that, so somebody like, your firm and so forth, that's a bit smaller, obviously, than the big
Mhm.
four, there's a little bit more hand holding, a little bit more interaction on a more human level, if I may use that term, to really get a feel for where the individual is coming from, versus
Yeah,
maybe going to the big four, depending
yeah,
on
you
their
know what?
particular situation.
Yeah, and this is sort of this. You're making me realize why it can work a little better when you go with a smaller, not a massive firm like the Big Four, because what happens in those is that they will put their least experienced staff on these individual returns because they want to save their better staff, their better, more valuable staff on for their large clients. Their large clients. It's a fantastic, lucrative business that they have. So they use individuals sometimes as sort of training grounds. And hey, look, you get great experience at the Big Four. You certainly can. Sometimes people might be paying a little bit too much for what they're getting, though. So, and it's just not the
Okay.
understanding. You're dealing with a new employee, someone who's a new employee in their 20s. Okay, they're good at accounting, but their life experience and understanding might not really be there. They're just so, oh, okay, what's the problem? What's the problem? They're not looking, they're not appreciating, the constraints as, people, as people get older and sort of are concerned about, well, how much do I have left here? And they're not understanding, the pressures of people as their life stations. So that's kind of one of the issues. Yeah.
Okay. So there's two conclusions I'm drawing from our exchange here. Conclusion number one is that before the individual even secures or starts looking at U.S. tax compliance firms, is they need to do their own due diligence and
Yeah.
to gather information first and do their research before they even do it, so they have some basic level of knowledge. That way, they're not coming at it at a level of complete and utter fear. Number
There you
one.
go.
And number two is that don't just go to one U.S. tax compliance firm and then that's it. Get some estimates. Talk to a few more. Three would be an ideal situation to go
Yeah.
to just to see what the interaction is going to be. And obviously, cost is going to be something that's important to many. But there's an expression that cheap can be expensive. So you have to take a more of a holistic
Oh, is
approach.
that true? Oh, that is very, I mean,
Would
incredibly.
would you say that's pretty fair, those two
Oh boy,
conclusions?
that's really true. Yep. And expensive can be expensive.
Right, right.
No, yeah. And I think so.
But it's
I think you have the best takeaway possible from this because, if you don't know where you're coming from, you really are shooting in the dark. But
yeah,
and I think, you do not need to be the expert really because the, sh- the, and this is, it doesn't take me a lot of time to recognize, who's, the bad from the good because I know the context. So I'm looking, oh, okay, that's bad. I already know that. But and so because the errors are so apparent. That's why I didn't spend
yeah,
2 hours to say, oh, what, I found something wrong here. No, I looked at it, oh, it's right there. It's pretty obvious. So that's the thing. Most of the things that you'll see are so obvious. You're just, hey, I gotta have a good background in this. And then they'll say something like, wait, that's not true at all because there. And that's how you know.
right, right.
Not to say that people can't make mistakes because I have made mistakes. This tax code is just so monstrous. And you do sort of reach that point in your life where you do feel that as you're learning something new and you're not using something old, takes a little bit of recollection. So there's definitely some truth to that. So it could take you some time to remember the various different rules as you go to.
Okay. Okay, well, this is good. I think hopefully this will help some people give a little bit of guidance in securing a U.S. tax compliance firm. So I do thank you for the time.
Right on. And yeah, and I think that we should, and I think we're going to be developing a guide. So people just a general, and I think that's one of our steps that we're looking for, and answering all the questions that people can pop up, including those related to immigration status. And so luckily we have John Richardson for that. He's with us just listening in today. So that's a little project we'll be working on later. So I think that's it. So hopefully, I would say, yeah, Keith, our number one takeaway is you have to do your research, and there's plenty of information online.
Right.
A lot of information on this channel. We probably have your topic covered. Just go to the search box, type it in. You're probably going to find something really close to giving you the idea of where you should go next.
Right. Gather information and shop around.
Here you
Don't do
go.
anything in haste.
Yeah, and that's really right. And right now, today, I'm switching my and just time for a quick plug. Our website's getting switched over, so we'll have a request of a free quote button on our website on the upper right hand corner there. So look for that. That will become, or over here. Look at this corner. So look for that coming up soon for anyone wanting to get a free quote, because you're absolutely right. You should get an idea of what this is going to cost you, and if what you're hearing makes sense.
Okay,
So.
perfect.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this. And so this is Anthony Parent of IRSMedic.com. I thank you for watching. And hey, be sure to subscribe, because we're going to have some more content coming up so you can figure out exactly what you need to do. Thanks for watching.